Hello viewers, we are now looking at the computation of how we can be able to determine the decision making under uncertainty. And the simulation we have is very short. Simulation says the table below shows states of nature and their respective and their corresponding alternatives. We have the alternatives, project 1, project 2, and project 3. We have even the probabilities 0.4, 0.3, 0.3. They have given us the states of nature, diminishing, static, and expanding. They have also given us the different returns in the different projects under different states of nature. And they are saying advise the decision maker on which decision should be undertaken using part A, max-min criteria, part B, they are saying max criteria, and part C, it is min-max regret criteria. We have also other numbers, trial numbers. There are very many, meaning this is the darling of the examiner. We have seen there are many numbers at least. So, without wasting more time, let's dive in and see what we have to do here. So we are going to start with a max-min criteria. That's our part A. But I did these numbers, so I'm just going to explain how these are done. It looks a bit faint, but I'm sure figures can be viewed. Maybe to zoom in a little bit. Let me zoom in a little bit so that you can be able to see, because this is what we are interested in. We are seeing that the max-min criteria, if they want to use the max-min criteria, we always start with the maximum payoffs. And where do we get these maximum payoffs? We are getting these maximum payoffs we get them from those projects. We look at the alternatives that we have. We have the different projects. We can get the question. If you look at project 1, you follow through in a horizontal format. You just go like this. This is project 1. This is the return in diminishing. This is the return in static, and this is the return in. So we just follow them like this horizontally. That is the project that we are looking at. Project 1, from those results, we pick the minimum, or we pick the lowest value. And if you look at those lowest value, those figures, the lowest value is 100. So we take our 100 to be the first project, the minimum value or the minimum payoff in that project 1. We'll do the same for project 2. We look at project 2. The whole of this is project 2. So we check which one is the smallest. We are seeing the smallest is 0. There is a 0 here. This is the smallest. Because this is also payoff, then and nothing. It was a 0. So it is the smallest. We go to project 3, we choose the smallest. In project 3, the smallest is 108. So this is how we took these figures. Project 1, it is 100. Project 2 is 0. Project 3 is 800, 108. So now we look at now the decision point. How do we make an advice? The advice is always we pick the highest. Remember, these we've picked the minimum values. But now from these minimum values, we are picking the one that has the highest value. And the one that has the highest value is project 3, which is having 180. So the decision here is that we are going to take project 3. We choose project 3, which is with the highest maximum payoff of 190. And that's how we make the decision with the max-min criteria. It is very easy, very accurate. It's just picking figures and you go. Remember, we said if the examiner gives you these probabilities, we don't use them. The reason as why we are not using those probabilities is because under uncertainty, we don't have chances, we don't have probabilities, we don't have perfect information. We just use different approaches. So that's why we are ignoring the probabilities. Then we go to another criteria, which is a max. That one is done. We go to a max. We said for a max criteria, we first pick the highest of those projects. We pick the highest payoffs, and after we choose the highest of those highest values that we selected. Let me just go to the solution and I show you. These are the max criteria. Max, we said we pick the maximum payoffs. We go to project 1. When we look at this project 1, this is project 1. We pick the highest. The highest value under project 1 is 1,000. We go to project 2. In this project 2, the highest value is 600. In project 3, the highest value is 200. So those are the figures that we are picking. Project 1, we have 1,000 as the highest. Project 2, it is 600. And project 3, it is 300. Now, we are done with that. What is remaining is how do we make a decision? We make a decision by taking the highest value. For a max, we pick the one that has the highest value. And the one that has the highest value is project 1, which is having that 1,000, because 1,000 is the highest value here. In other words, it's a max. We take the highest of the highest. The other side, we take the highest of the lowest. But now, let me maybe add you something. If in the question, if in these values that we've selected, we find when maybe there are two similar values, because you may find that even this project 2 has 1,000 and even this one has 1,000. What are you going to do? What we do there, in the advice here, we advise by picking that highest value as 1,000, because they will be uniform. Even if it is 2,000, even if it is 5,000, we pick that highest value. But when we are advising on the project, we tell them to select any of the two. Hope you get my point. Even if they are all three and they have the same value, we tell them the highest value is this, and we tell them to select any of those items. Hope you have gotten that. So we can now go to the last one, that is max. For the max, it is the one that has more marks because most of the times this one, it has so many things that we need to compute. And that's why you're seeing there are many tables. So let me zoom out a little bit. We can be able to view those values. So now we go to the last part, which is the min max regret criteria. So now this is where you need to concentrate or to put some concentration, because at least this one, it has some items that we need actually to understand. So let's try to look at the min-max regret criteria and how do we do this. So I may call them steps because there are certain things that we need to follow. One of the key things that we follow here is that we have to, when we are determining these values, we look at the states of nature. The other side, the other two criteria, we've been looking at the alternatives, the projects themselves. But here, we are not looking at the projects. Now we are looking at the states of nature. So let's start. How do we look at these states of nature? First, we look at these states of nature in the first place. That's one of the key items that I need to mention to you guys, because if you don't look at the states of nature, then you'll get it wrong. Then the second thing that you need to note is that we need to draw a liquidity table. And it's the first thing that we need to first do. Those two things are important. You look at the states of nature, and at the same time, you draw the liquidity table. The liquidity table is only drawn if at all you have looked at the states of nature. Now, we want now to start getting the regulative values. How do we get in the regulative values? We say the only way to get those regulative values, we look at the states of nature and we don't look at the alternatives. Remember, a regret comes as a result of not having anticipated the best, of not having anticipated that the best will happen. In other words, you did not anticipate that you will get the maximum payoff. So, what now, the reason as why we are looking at these states of nature is because we want to see each of those independent states of nature. The states of nature will have diminishing. Maybe you can go this side. In these states of nature, we have diminishing, we have a static, we have expanding. So what do? We go by each state of nature. Here, if let's say we are looking at diminishing, maybe we can highlight diminishing all of it. This is where now we are looking at. We are looking at this column here, the one for diminishing. Now, if you look at this diminishing, sloping downwards like this, we now look at which value is the highest. We look for the highest value. When you're looking at the diminishing, you look at what is the highest value there. And we always look at the original table that has been given to us. This is the original table that we have in the question. When you look downwards, when you're moving downwards, the highest value is this 180. That is the highest value under diminishing. So the challenge now we are getting is, how do we get the degrade? Because under diminishing, we would have gotten 180 if at all we had chosen to go with the maximum value. So what are we going to do is that what we are going to do here, we would have gotten this, in under diminishing, we would have gotten 180. But you find under project 2, we got a 0. Under project 3, we got 100. So the question is, how much are we regretting? Or how much did we fail to earn? Because the maximum would have been 180. In other words, in project 2, we would have gotten 180. Even this one would have gotten 108. If at all we had anticipated to have the highest. So now the thing is, if the highest is 180, how much have we lost? You will get, for this project 1, you'll get 180 minus 100, and that will give us 80. For project 2, it will be 180 minus 0, and that will give us 180. Then for 100, this is the maximum. Of course, we shall get 180 minus 180, and answer will remain 0. We don't touch this probability. We said this one will completely ignore. The reason as why we are deducting, because the logic here is that if the maximum is 180, then let's say in project 1, we only earned 100. It means how much have we lost? We have lost 80. It means we are regulating for the 80 we would have received if at all we had assumed so. That is the logic, and that's the only trick that is on this item. You just look at the states of nature, you pick the highest value. So when you get that highest value, you start lessing those values within the values that you actually earned. Because in project 1, we earned 100, but would have earned the highest of 180. So the question is, how much have we lost? We have lost 80. So that 80 becomes our regulative value. For this project 2, we never earned anything. So the question is, how much have we lost? We lost the whole 180. But in project 3, we wanted 180. It's exactly what we got, and that means we are regretting nothing. That's why here we have a 0. That is the logic. So you go to static. We are looking at states of nature, not alternatives. And this is basically what we did from here. If you try to look at this, We got 180 minus 100, we got 80. We got 180 minus 0, we got 180. We got 180 minus 180, we regret nothing because we earned the maximum. Then we go to static. Static, what is the highest? The highest is 500. It means if it is 500, the highest, but here in project 1, we earned 200 only. It means we are regretting the 300 we lost. So that's why we are seeing here 500 minus the 200, you remain with the, you are regretting 300. And the 500 minus the 500, here we are regretting nothing because we have earned the maximum. So this one is 500 minus the 190, and we are remaining with 310. That's what we are regretting. We go to project, we go to the third state of nature. Here we are looking at the highest value, which is 1000. So in project 1, the highest we would have earned or we expect to get is 1000. And in that project 1, we earned 1000. It means we are regretting nothing. Nothing is in regrets. Here we earned 600, but we would have earned 100. It means we are regretting the 400 that we didn't earn. So you get 100, you get 1000 minus the 600, you remain with 400. This one we earned 200, but we would have earned 1000. So we get this 1000 minus the 200, we remain with 800. And that's it. This is what we did here. We got 1000 minus 1000, we got a 0. Got 1000 minus 400, minus 600, we got 400. 1000 minus 200, we got an 800. So these figures you are seeing here, they are the ones I've transferred and I put in this table. So this table is, it's another table, but it's not all that necessary, because if you're in an exam and you're saving time, you can just draw this last column, because the only thing that we need is this last column. You can draw it here. And you draw, but I'm just picking these values, 80, and I put it here, 180, and I put it here. I'm just transferring these zeros. These are the regulative values that we computed. These are the regulative values. These are the regulative values. In other words, that's the amount we didn't receive. So now, the last item is, how do we get these maximum regrets? These are regrets, and the regrets we are picking the maximum. Now here we change it. The other time we've been looking at the states of nature, but here we want to make a decision. We only make a decision on the alternatives. So we shall look at the alternatives here after getting the regulative values. We look at the alternatives here. The alternatives that we have project 1. And this project 1, you look through from project 1, you go horizontally, you pick the highest. This one is not part, actually, this one is not part. This is what we are looking for. You look at project 1 under diminishing, we have 80. Project 1 under static, we have 300. Project 1 under expanding, we have a 0. So you pick the highest value, and the highest value is 300. So you take that 300 there. When you have done with that, you go to project 2. You pick the highest, which is 400. You go to project 3, you pick the highest, which is 800. Now, what we have left with is the decision point. The decision point here, we make it from this maximum regrets. It's the one that helps us to determine which project to undertake. And the decision point is that we pick the lowest of the maximums. In other words, we choose the lowest value here under the maximum regrets. We pick the lowest or we pick the minimum. And the minimum here is 300. That's why we are taking project 1 to be our project. That's why we are saying the minimax regret payoff is 300. And so we choose project 1. So that's it. Maybe I'm going to repeat one more time for those who have actually not gotten it right. We said, I'm just repeating on the steps that we follow. That's why I'm going back to the question. We said when you're doing a minimax regret criteria, one thing we follow is we look at the states of nature. By looking at the states of nature, we are trying to get regret values. And how do we get these regret values? You look at the state of nature, you pick, this is the state of nature called the diminishing. You pick the highest value first. But remember, these values, we pick them from the original table that has been given to you in the question. You pick the highest from, you go in this column of diminishing, this column of static, and this column of expanding. Now we are just working on diminishing. When you are done with the diminishing, you go to static, you go to expanding. So for diminishing, the highest value is 180. It means that is the maximum that we are supposed to get, because we are regretting that we should have selected the highest payoff. That is the reason as to why we are picking the maximum value from those different states of nature. And we get those, the highest is 180. So it is going to be 180 we less from this. 180 minus 100, it means we are regretting 80 because we didn't expect more. Then we go to project 2, it will be 180 minus 0. We are regretting the full figure of 180. This one, for project 3, we expected 180 and we got exactly 180, so we are regretting nothing. We go to static, we pick the highest value, which is 500. So it is this 500 that we less from the 200 that we got. In other words, we should have estimated that we are getting 500 instead of the 200 that we got, because it's like we selected a minimum value because we didn't get the highest or the maximum. That's why we are regretting the other 300 we lost. Even this one, we are regretting nothing because we estimated 500, which is the highest, and we got it. So we are regretting nothing. Here we gotten on 190, but the maximum would have been 500, meaning we are regretting 390, 310. So we do the same for expansion. And when that is done, you draw what we call a maximum regret. In other words, you look into these values, you select, but this time around you are not going downwards. You are going horizontally. It means you are looking at the alternatives. The reason why we are looking at the alternatives is because you want to make a decision. That's why we are looking at the alternatives. So you go horizontally and you pick those highest values. This is 300. And when project 2, the highest is 400, you are looking at these regulatory values. That's why I removed these regulatory values from here and I put them here so that you don't get confused. But in an exam, you can just shift this part to this side because of saving time and all that. Then you do the same for this, you get the highest as 800. Then from these maximum regrets that you've gotten, you pick the smallest. And the smallest is in that project 1. So we take the project 1 to be our project. So that's what we needed to do there. So that's all for today. And maybe we can have a trial number. Trial number can be maybe March 2021 question 5. Then with other many, because we have seen there are very many numbers that are on that. Though it is very easy thing, but you need to practice, especially this regret criteria, because it is a bit, it's not complicated, but you just need to get the concept, because I've just given you this, but it's just enough. This one alone is enough for you to do all the numbers, because there is no trick in this number. It is just as direct as you've seen. As long as you get the basics, you can get it right. So the next topic will be inventory management and control. So we shall look at that when we resume. So that's all for now. For those who haven't subscribed, please do, because there are so many things that are coming and we need to be on the same page so that we can be able to follow up, handle each and everything as we be able to learn from each other. For those who have suggestions, maybe you've gotten something you want to ask, make sure you put it in the comment section. I'll be able to respond. Thank you so much.